Hello children, welcome to the 10th standard second language English, prose 8, Science and Hope of Survival, written by Keles Baroque. This is session 2. Now let's check the home assignments that were given to you in the previous class. The first one that was given was, name the 3 superpower countries. Do you know the answer? Check. The 3 superpower countries were USA, that is United States of America, UK, United Kingdom, and USSR or Russia. I am sure you would have written the right answer. Let's check the next one. Why was Keles Baroque's name suggested by Frank Press to the president of Russian Academy of Sciences? This was the question. Now, I am sure you would have written the reason. Why was he suggested? Baroque's name was suggested as he was doing research on seismic waves. Only he could convince the experts about the difference between the tremors due to natural earthquake and underground nuclear explosion. Now, let me see what your answer to this question was. Now, what was this extract and the questions that followed it? I found myself in Geneva. Now, what were the questions that were given? Who said this? How did the speaker feel? Why did he go to Geneva? Now, let's check the answer. Who said this? Keles Baroque. Now, how did he feel? He felt surprised that he was invited to Geneva. And why did he go there? To attend a meeting. Now, if you remember, this was another activity that was given to you. You had to match the words in the orange boxes with their collocative words in the blue box. Now, let's check if your answers are right. Exciting adventure, seismic wave, technical experts, superpowers, violate laws, solve problem, nuclear weapons, sign agreement. Now, it can also be nuclear power. So, I had told you that there can be more than one collocative words. So, I am sure you would have done this work. Now, there was another activity which I had given to you where you had to identify the mistakes. Now, here I have brought in the exercise for you and I have put the mistakes in a different color for you. Now, I will read it out. I will also tell you the correction here. Space exploration is an big part. So, an should not be written. Instead of an, it should be a big part of American history. A should have been written in capital letter. It is been shrouded to controversy for years. Now, here it should have been, it has been shrouded to controversy for years. To controversy, it should not be to controversy. The correct preposition that you should use is by controversy. Shrouded by controversy for years. Space exploration is defined. The word R is the mistake here and they have left a blank here. What is there is a word that is missing. What should it be? Space exploration is defined and the investigation of physical conditions in space and on stars. After the stars, there should be a comma and not a hyphen. Planets and their moons through the use of artificial. So, spelling of artificial is wrong here. Satellites. Again, there should be a comma instead of hyphen. Satellites, comma, space probes, comma, spacecrafts with human crews. Space exploration, inspire is the mistake. What should it be? Inspires, because here it is a singular word and there should be subject and verb concord or agreement. Space exploration inspires and enlighten is the word that is mistake here. It should have been enlightens every person which comes. Now, you will not use the word which since it is a person. Correct word that should be used there is who comes in contact with it. It is not its, it should be it. One example of a inspiring, it should have been an inspiring. an inspiring event in space exploration was the Apollo project. The Apollo missions is rarely disastrous. The Apollo missions is this a mistake here? It should have been are. The Apollo missions are rarely disastrous, but often successful. So, the spelling of successful is again wrong there. Successful and triumphant. So, it should be S-U-C-C-E-S-S-F-U-L. There is no double L there. So, these are the mistakes that we find in this paragraph. So, in your examination, you will have a question on editing. So, this is a precursor to that, which means if you are able to identify the mistakes, you will be able to correct them also. So, children, practice more such passages which have small mistakes in them, so that you will be very adept at writing editing questions. Now, let us learn the new words which will help us to understand today's lesson. Are you ready? If you want, you can note it down, children. The first word is persistent. What does it mean? It means continuing to happen. So, let us see how it can be used in a sentence. You can see here. Persistent rain made walking a challenge. Fundamental. Now, you would have come across this word. What does it mean? It means the most basic. You would have heard of the words fundamental rights. So, our constitution has the fundamental principles. So, this is where we can use this word. Now, let us see the next word, forensic. What does it mean? It means it is a scientific method of finding about a crime. Now, let us see how to use this in a sentence. Samples collected at the crime scene were sent to the forensic lab. The next word is headhunt. What does it mean? It means it is an act of finding suitable person for a job. Now, let us see how it can be used in a sentence. She was headhunted by a rival company. So, this is an example. Trigger. What does this word mean? It means to initiate or to set off or to start. Let us see how we can use this. Motivational speech triggers the minds of the listeners. Next word is immersion. Involved in an activity. In this case, we have to take it as completely involved in doing some activity. Let us see the usage in this case. The log has swollen due to immersion in water. Let us recall what we learnt in the previous class, children. If you remember, Kelles Baruch was doing his research on seismic waves in Moscow. A meeting of the three superpowers were held at Geneva. The superpowers, that is USA, UK and the USSR, were to sign an agreement in order to ban the nuclear tests. Kelles was invited to the meeting as his research on seismic waves could save mankind from destruction through nuclear explosions. Now, let us read on. Look into the 8th paragraph, children. In the atmosphere of the ongoing Cold War, with political tensions hanging over our heads, scientists and engineers from the opposite sides of the Iron Curtain had to find a solution which outwardly seemed impossible, given all our differences in cultural background. So, what does Baruch want to emphasize here? He wanted to say that there was Cold War, there was political tension, and scientists and engineers from the opposite sides, that is the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc, had come together to find out a solution to this problem. But to see it from the surface level, it seemed as if it was very impossible to get a solution to this. Why? That was because there was lot of cultural differences between the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. There were differences in the ideologies between the two blocks, and therefore, it seemed difficult to get a solution to this problem, according to Calais. Now he continues, he says, what saved us was a clear and obvious distinction. We were all scientists. That's the emphatic note there, children, note it. We were all scientists. We were able to work out a common language. Now what is that common language? That common language based on respect to hard evidence, undisputable, ranking by expertise only, and persistent self-criticism. We were working out a solution that eventually allowed politicians to reach one of the most important decisions of their times. What was that? Nuclear test ban. Now, what was a common language that all these scientists spoke? You can see I have highlighted them here. Hard evidence. They were all having a common platform to work on. What was that? Whatever evidence they had, that was what they believed in. And all of them were having this mindset where they gave respect to the ranking, and it was not based on age, but it was based on the expertise that the person or the scientist had on the subject. And every scientist had this beautiful mind to accept self-criticism, or they would criticize themselves whenever they made a mistake. So this was one of the beautiful qualities that all the scientists have, and this is what Burrough calls as a common language. And all these scientists came together to find a solution, and this led, the togetherness and their ability to work together led the politicians to decide to land upon a decision of their times. That is, their times. It is a final decision, or it is a very great decision of their times. What was that? To ban the nuclear tests by both the blocs of the European. Burrough learned a beautiful lesson in Geneva. Now let's see what that is. Read on. This episode taught me that as a scientist, I have people all over the world who think and interact the way I do. It taught me never to feel lonely abroad, and above all, it taught me that while there is science, there is hope of survival and well-being for all of us. So what did this episode of being in Geneva teach him? It taught him that there are people all over the world who have the like-mindedness. That is, there are people with the like mind everywhere in the world. There are great scientists everywhere. And what was the other thing? It taught him not to feel alone, because wherever he went, he found scientists who would make him feel very comfortable. So the discussion between them would be science, and obviously it was a common subject. He would never feel out of place. He would never feel that he is somewhere else. And the most important thing that he learnt in this Geneva session was that there is science which is the hope of survival, and science is the only hope of survival, and it is helping man to survive. Burrough further tells us that scientists are a perfect blend of contrasts when it comes to the practical aspects of life. Now here is a beautiful anecdote. Listen, children. Once, when Albert Einstein was traveling on a train, the conductor approached to collect his ticket. Einstein began searching his pockets, but the conductor recognized him and said he could ride for free. Einstein responded, "Thank you, but if I don't find my ticket, I won't know where to get off the train." Did you get this, children? Yes. Burrough writes that such absent-mindedness is common among scientists. But if you look carefully, you will find another side to this, which makes scientists the most practical people in the world. Now, how are they the most practical people in the world? Burrough writes, all new technologies, all new brands of industry, from defense to entertainment, they come from fundamental research. Among past examples, Baruch says, are antibiotics, electronics, biotechnology, synthetic fibers, the Green Revolution, and genetic forensic diagnosis, to name just a few. And now, only basic research could give us new sources of energy, new mineral deposits, and efficient defense from terrorism, cure from cancer, new forms of transportation. So, according to Baruch, basic research is very essential, and that is what gives us new areas which will open out science and help man in surviving better, living better. What will be the result of all this then? People trained in theoretical physics are head-hunted by financial institutions. Those trained in frontiers of biological research become founders and directors in the pharmaceutical industry. Children, you must remember that those were the days when pharmaceutical companies were coming up. During those times, these were new areas. So, that is what Baruch wants to tell us here. So, knowledge of basic science will give you a head start in whatever career you choose. Children, remember, if you take up science, it will give you a head start in whatever career you choose. You can have lots of exposure, you will have lot of avenues, you will have lot of career options if you take up science. That is what Baruch wants to underline through his work. Now, Baruch continues to write. What does he write? It is commonly recognized that the very survival of our civilization is threatened by natural and man-made disasters. Among them are earthquakes, self-inflicted destruction of megacities, environmental catastrophes, economic and social crisis. Now, why does Baruch write about economic and social crisis here? This is just for your information, children, that Baruch used his mathematical calculations, which he would use to predict earthquakes, also to find out some of the economic and social crisis. He could even assess what are the environmental catastrophes or environmental hazards that will come up. He could predict even those things. That is the reason why he has put even these things as man-made or natural calamities here in his essay. Let us quickly list and classify some more disasters. Children, are you ready? Yes, come on, look at this table. It gives us details of some of the natural disasters and man-made disasters. Now, let us first list out the natural disasters. These are common ones: tsunami, floods, storms, landslides. So, these are natural disasters. What about man-made disasters? Man-made disasters can be terrorism, war, civil disorder, and some of the fires. Now, the last two, that is landslides, can also be man-made. If man goes on cutting trees, it can lead to landslide. So, that can also be put under man-made disasters. Fire can also be put under natural disasters, where forest fires are also seen. So, I have on purpose put these two on both the columns that way and this way, so that you will know that they can either be natural or man-made. Now, let us read on. Today, a massive release of radioactivity from a nuclear waste disposal, an earthquake in the middle of a megalopolis, an outburst of mass violence, or any other global disaster can cause up to 1 million of casualties, render large part of our world uninhabitable, and trigger global economic depression or a war in a hot region. Such dangers keep growing, although trillions of dollars are spent to contain them by all known techniques, scientific techniques. So, this is the reason why Baruch is very unhappy, or he is actually expressing his concern here. Now, Baruch gives a solution to this too. He writes The hope and the responsibility for breaking the stalemate rests not only on the money but on intellectual resources. So, this is the answer. This is the solution. Though the money is more popular, according to a French proverb, nobody is satisfied with his wealth. Everybody is satisfied with his wisdom. Now, this is a beautiful proverb that Baruch says, and he continues to say that only the basic research can create a springboard, a starting point for developing new disaster preparedness industry. So, he gives an idea that we should have a new industry which is meant for developing new disaster management techniques or new disaster preparedness activities. So, this is a solution that Baruch also gives. He raises a question, he also gives an answer to it.
Oh, is that why scientists prefer wisdom over money?
Yes. Now, let us read on. Baruch also quotes McGeorge Bundy's words. He says, ours is the time of contest over issues not completely understood. Now, what does Baruch then say? He says, scientific research is an exciting venture into the great unknown. Yes, maybe now you can understand why he is talking of certain issues that are not known to us. So, scientific research is an exciting venture into the great unknown and the token of humankind's survival. And that is the reason why scientists have to do scientific research, so that it can remain as a token of humankind's survival. It is the scientists with their tools that are up to the challenge and can ensure that we are all safe. We move safely with time. Finally, I have to remind you that science is not the beginning and not the end either. However, if humanly used, science is their indispensable guardian and caretaker. So, it is a beautiful conclusion that Baruch has given here. He says science is not the beginning and not the end. He says it is, if it is used correctly, it can be an indispensable guardian, something which will really take care of us, without which we cannot do. Indispensable is something without which we cannot live, and science is the caretaker. Now, it is time for us to check our comprehension of what we have understood today. Are you ready, children, to answer the questions? Come on then, let us look at the questions that follow. What was the common language of the scientists? Yes, come on, give me the answer. Yes, all of them respected hard evidence. Ranking of the scientists was based on expertise and not age. All of them persistently subjected themselves to self-criticism. Good, you have answered it well. Now, look at these statements, say whether they are true or false. Money is more powerful than intellectual resources. Can you tell me? Yes, it is a wrong statement. Money is not powerful than intellectual resources. The next sentence, intellectual resources help in survival of mankind. Does it help? Yes, it helps. Now, let us look at the next sentence. Basic research is a way of stopping disasters. Think of what Baruch has said. Yes, basic research is a way of stalling disasters. Correct. Let us read this conversation, children. Let us do another activity. Rajesh, hi Shashi, please come in. Sudha, thanks. Rajesh, would you mind taking off your shoes? Sudha, oh sorry, I forgot. Rajesh, we always take off our shoes before we enter the house. Now see how Bhaskar has written their conversation in the form of a paragraph. Okay? Yes. Now read Bhaskar's paragraph. Rajesh was pleased to see Sudha and welcomed her. Sudha thanked him. Rajesh asked her politely if she could take off her shoes. Sudha regretted for not having remembered it. Rajesh told her about their practices at home. The highlighted words give us a clue to write the correct verbs in the sentence when we are writing a paragraph. Now look at this. I have highlighted a few words. What is it? Hi, please come, thanks, would you mind, sorry. So these words will actually help us in writing the correct verb forms when we are writing it in the form of a paragraph. Now let's see how it does. Let's revisit Bhaskar's paragraph and put those words, cue words there. Rajesh was pleased. So when he says hi, he is actually happy to see Sudha, and therefore he has written the word pleased. You can also write Rajesh was happy to see Sudha and welcomed her. So instead of welcomed, what was it that was there in the conversation? It said please come. Sudha thanked him. So the word thanks is there in the conversation. We have changed it here into thanked. Rajesh asked her politely. Now he is asking, would you mind, is the clue that we have taken. Rajesh asked her politely if she could take off her shoes. Sudha regretted for not having remembered it. So the word regretted is written here, the verb is taken because in the conversation we have the word sorry. So do you see, children, that we have got the clue to these verbs in the conversation. Rajesh told her about their practices at home. So this is in general, we have written for the last statement that he has made. Take down some assignments, children, and I want you to do it and please show it to your teachers. Answer these questions in 3 to 4 sentences each. Write it down. What lessons did Baruch learn in Geneva? The second one, give a few instances to show that scientists are practical people. Who are headhunted and why? Take down the last question. List out the factors that can make our earth unfit for inhabitation. All these questions have an answer for them in paragraphs 8 to the last one. Okay? So go through and you will be able to answer these questions easily. Now read this conversation and what should you do? You must write a paragraph. Let's see what that conversation is. It's a conversation between Janaki and Rajendra. Janaki is saying, good morning Rajendra. Rajendra, very good morning Janaki. Janaki, let's not waste our time. Shall we begin? Rajendra, sure. I am rather glad you raised the subject. Now help Bhaskar to complete the conversation written in the form of a paragraph. Here again Bhaskar is writing a paragraph. You must help him now. Will you do it? Now come on, write it down. See, here I have given some clues in the boxes. So you can use these words in order to complete the paragraph. Use the words in the box to complete the paragraph. What are the words? Told her, had raised, he was, if they should begin their talks. Okay? So I think you can easily help Bhaskar in completing his task. Now write this paragraph. Janaki and Rajendra exchanged pleasantries. Janaki was eager to get straight into the business. She asked him, dash. Rajendra accepted and dash that, dash glad as she dash the subject. Now I hope the clue will help you in completing the paragraph. Thank you, children. Bye. Take care.